So today's video is just to introduce you to Schoology. Our district does pay for us to have a Schoology account. This is a separate account that I've made for grad school, but they have the same features. So I prefer to use Schoology pretty much for everything at this point. I've gotten rid of Google Classroom, and I like Schoology because you can do most of your formative and summative assessments on here, and it will give you immediate feedback and break it down for you so that you can plan for your next learning cycle. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go to your courses, and your courses should already be embedded in by the district. I have made a new course for today's lesson, so you'll just click on that course. Now, as you can see, there's tons of different things that you can put into the course. There is the initial technology survey, which you all took in Google Forms. This is one form of formative assessment. I have your standards and objectives for professional development. I also have a parking lot that you guys are welcome to post in and ask questions if you're struggling while you go to make that first formative assessment before our hands-on meeting. You should be able to just click that and write and give your feedback there. I also have some resources that you can use to help you. Once you master Schoology, or if you decide you want to try a different website or a different approach, there are some website links here that you can use to create these formative assessments. And then also a discussion board that I'd like everyone to post at before coming to the hands-on session. So on this discussion board, I would like you to share your favorite formative assessment methods. I'd also like you to share why it's your favorite formative assessment method, any tips that you have for people that are getting new and used to these assessments. So for instance, I just learned about a new website called Gimkit. Gimkit, and so I'm going to post on here before we meet to share about that website and why I found it to be exciting for the kids. Okay, so while you're in Schoology, which is our first LMS that we're going to study, you'll notice that you have materials here on the left. You have updates where you can post updates for the students. So for instance, I can go ahead and post to you all. And I can just remind you, please create a formative by Friday's meeting. You can add a poll where you could ask, yes, I'm prepared. And I like to do these a lot when I am out. So if I have a sub, I'll do these polls, and then the kids know to check and tell me yes, they're ready, or no, they need more time. So that's one way that you could formally assess the kids, just in the updates. So when they log on to Schoology, their homepage will show that right when they log on. So that's one cool way to just assess them real quick. Okay, another method that you'll need to know about is the gradebook, which when we get to the hands-on, I will show you how to link Schoology with your gradebook so that the grades transfer right over. Okay, so when you all do join the course, at the hands-on session, I'll be showing you what your grades look like. When your names are in here, it will calculate your grades based on your Schoology feedback. And what I like about that is that I do most of my formative and summative assessments on Schoology, so I can tell parents right then and there that your child is scoring a 50% average or a 70% average on their standards-based tests and an 80% average on their writing assessment. So it's right there in that grade book, and it doesn't include homework or any paper classwork that we might do. So when we come together, we'll look at this grade setup and figure out how to connect all of that. I will also do another video about this after the hands-on. I haven't done the badges or attendance on here because we do use PowerSchool for that, so those are not buttons that I'm familiar with. Your access code, which all your students should be linked in, your access code will be right here. Okay, so when you go back to your home, what we're going to look at today and what I'd like you all to try before we come together is just creating our own formative assessment for our students. Most of us use paper, and so we're taking the time to carry all the paper home. We're grading for hours when in reality the computer can do most of that for you. Okay, so what I like to do first is I like to always have a folder where I put my information. So my students are reading Walk Two Moons Quarter 4. So I will create a folder where they know anything in there is going to be going straight to the gradebook, and it will be a formative assessment. You can add a date. So for us, we'll be reading this until the end of the quarter. So I'll have it go to May 24th. And that's add end date. I usually don't do both. I'll just do one date, and then it can also be published so they can see it. If you're someone that plans ahead of time, you can do unpublished and then show it when you're ready. So we create that folder, and that's just so that we're organized and know where everything is. Once we create the folder, we can go into it, and then we can add materials within there. You don't have to create the folder. Either way, it's going to have the same function with the Add Material button. So the first thing I want to look at right now is just adding a test or quiz for you all. And for my test or quiz, I do have a paper document. It is Chapter 34, Close Read. And so in the past, I've given this on paper, and what I want to do is then instead give it in the computer so I can grade it at a faster rate for me. So I know that I'm going to be assigning that. The due date will be April 25th, and then you can set up your point value here. And eventually, once we create our categories in the grade setup, you can add a new category such as homework, classwork, or test. Numeric scale. And then here, if you want to personally assign this to individual students, this is where it's nice for the differentiation. Your special ed children, you can personally assign them a different level with half the questions, or different, sentence starters can be provided for them, so that's really nice. This is the publish. This is the grade statistics if you don't want them, which we do want those so that we can speed up our evaluation. And then comments if the children want to make comments. My kids usually don't do that, so I don't worry about turning that off too much. So once we create this test, we're now at the point where we can go ahead and add a question. So most of us at this point in our career have all of our tests and quizzes made up. We just, print them at the copier and all of that. So what I've done is taken one of my paper quizzes, and I've just decided that what I'm going to do is just transfer it over to Schoology. So as you can see, my first question is a multiple choice question, so I'll go into add question, multiple choice. And then the way I like to do this is when I first started, I just wanted to use tests and quizzes that I already had. So I will literally just copy and paste. And I know it seems like a lot up front, but once you get this done, you do not have to do all the grading. You have more time to analyze your data. And also from year to year, you might have to revise a little bit, but for the most part, your tests are already ready to go. So I go into my paper copy. You can copy from PDF. You can copy from a Word document. And I just copy and paste in the answers. Okay, so this first question for me is word choice, and it does say highlighted in yellow. I would get rid of that because that's the old way where I had paper. Now I'm just trying to figure out which definition best fits it. So I would go in. Usually on this close read, I print the paper, the section out of the novel, so they would be using the paper side by side, and it would make more sense. Okay. In the book it is Suddenly Rose Higher. They're at the water geysers. So sometimes you can randomize choices if you don't want them cheating off of each other, so I'll do that, and then you can change your point value here. I would like my question to be 2 points. Create the question, and then it's there to go. Okay, so then this part they would do on the paper, but then I can go on and I can do my next question. So what's nice about this is you can go in, multiple choice, copy and paste from any documents that you already have. So for Schoology and using it for a formative assessment so that you can evaluate some of your data, I think this is the best way to start using it. just getting used to the multiple choice function, the test quiz function, and going from there. Okay, so then I'm looking at theme. So I have word choice and theme that I'm going to be looking at. So I put these two questions in, I randomize this so no one can see each other's answers. I go from there. This is a great exit for me now. So when it's time, I can go to my settings. I can select enable. If you want to give the kids more than 1 or 2 attempts, that's awesome. That's another way that I accommodate my IEP students. If I give them 2 attempts, I will let it go with average score or highest score. It can randomize the questions if you'd like. You can do question review, so before they submit, they have to watch the questions. I do suggest always turning on the resumable option, because if their computer acts up or they get logged out or anything like that, they can get right back in there without losing their information. And then view submissions is a tricky one. So view submissions, they can see what they've turned in and they can see what they've gotten wrong when you do yes, but it doesn't tell them the correct answer. With correct answer, it will show them the answer key. I usually don't turn on yes with correct answers until everyone is completely done with the assignment and we're evaluating our data the next day. So when I go back in and I want to show the kids, hey, 50% of us understood the word choice question, that's when I turn on that view submissions. Now, after you've done that, you have a preview that you can look at where you can see what it will look like for your students. And then that's what they will see. You also can see the results. So once you all are logged in and I have an assessment for you, I'll be able to show you that at the hands-on. It'll be by student and by question right there. And then finally, you also have, and this is by question, and then you also have any comments that a child might need to make if they are confused. Up here you can see the statistics of who got what, and so this is why this is nice. You can see the maximum points, the highest grade, the lowest grade, the average, medium mode. So whenever you're doing data, this is a nice little function to show you where your students are. The next video is going to show you how to embed a Google Doc or a Google Slideshow into Schoology. This first video is just for those of you that have never used Schoology before and that are just learning how to do the basic functions. So I would suggest that you watch both, but you don't necessarily need to. You just want to make sure you definitely watch one of them so that you can come to the hands-on session ready to show us what you've done and what you've learned. So you can see right here, here's my chapter 34. Close read, the kids can also click in that upcoming, get there, take the test. So remember to go ahead and try in your own Schoology to create a test or quiz like I have done. Also post to the parking lot, and I will work to make that bigger. I believe I embedded it in, and that's why it looks like that. You can also pop it out if you need to, but I'll try to embed it in a little bit bigger. And then finally, we're going to want to post to the discussion board if we've learned about any other resources that you know about outside of the list that I have provided. So, for instance, I think Kayla sent me something about a website called Freckle, which I've never heard about. I'm going to be looking at that and posting on the discussion board as well. Thank you.